Okay. This is our last class meeting. I'm going to miss you guys. I just had a lot of fun this semester. I got to ask you a favor, and that is fill out the course evaluations. They should be on Canvas. You should have been getting some notices from these because they've been telling me to remind you guys too. So anyway, what?
I already did mine for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And they stay anonymous, and I don't get to see them until way after grades and stuff. So anyway, that's the kind of business. And the other thing is I want to see how many of these PowerPoint presentations we can get through. And let me see. I got Christina, Julia. Oh. And Wes. Okay, good. Well, Wes, I wanted to tell you, I got yours, but I didn't get it in time to be able to put it on something that I could bring into class and play. But this is the PowerPoint from Randis Reed, and play.
Hi, my name is Randis Reed. This is my presentation on Forever Free by Edmonia Lewis. Born on July 4th, 1844 in New York, Mary Edmonia Lewis was an African-American and indigenous artist and activist. Born to an African-American father and a native Ojibwe mother, her native given name was Wildfire, which I think was very fitting for her. She was a 19th century sculptor that specialized in neoclassic interpretations of her Black identity and Native heritage. When she was a child, she was orphaned by the age of 9 and lived with her aunts in New York, where they created and sold Native Ojibwe crafts and merch and toys. As she grew older, she found a connection with art, especially sculpture. She became college educated and eventually began to pursue an art career. This is her piece, Forever Free, which was created in 1867. Forever Free represents African Americans and the moment they gained freedom and emancipation from slavery. The Black man is raising his arm in a triumphant pose, and a broken chain on the shackle of his wrist and his foot standing on top of the ball that was originally connected to the chain represents the fact that Black people were finally granted freedom and no longer physically restrained by slavery. I think it is a very symbolic piece about the fight for freedom. The sculpture also is symbolic of how intersectional struggles with oppression can be. Because Black women were simultaneously suppressed for their race and gender and were still below Black men. But it can also be interpreted as both of them just being very celebratory and happy in the moment of what they had just been granted, like the freedom that they had just been granted. So a lot of different art critics say they have different interpretations of this piece, and it can differ between the person. So the description of this piece is that the time period it was created in was the 19th century neoclassical period. The medium is marble, and it was created in 1867 in Rome, Italy. The dimensions are 106 centimeters by 57 centimeters. And it currently resides at Harvard University Art Gallery. Forever Free is an addition to the neoclassical era of art. During this period, 19th century artists began to be inspired heavily by older classical eras of art, and this triggered a cultural movement and revival of classical art styles. Edmonia Lewis specialized in classicizing contemporary subject matter, such as the enslavement of African Americans, Native American heritage, female empowerment, and more. Reminiscent of the era of Roman sculpture, Edmonia created representation for subjects that would have never appeared back then. Typically typically a neoclassical sculpture. Women were portrayed as semi-nude to fully nude. And Ammonia, she decided to depict a woman fully clothed to challenge the over-sexualized, exploited, and fetishized image of Black women. So the cultural aspects of the piece are that Forever Free is a quote directly from Lincoln's Emancipation or Proclamation speech. And the proclamation declared that all persons held as slaves within the southern states are henceforth shall be free. And the violent, inhumane treatment of Africans began to slowly be outlawed. It was made during the post-colonial years after slavery was like fully abolished, and it was celebrating the long-awaited emancipation of African Americans. And it was common in abolitionist art to portray kneeling and shackled slaves, but the broken shackle and victorious, prideful, and celebratory mood like this piece, it symbolizes a future that African Americans could finally look forward to. So these are some of more of her pieces in our portfolio that I think are just like really fantastic, and it shows like more of her talents and stuff. And I think that it's really important to celebrate Black artists as well, because a lot of them are like underrated and not spoken about as much as their white counterparts, especially like during this time period. So I think it's like really important to highlight and celebrate their talents and stuff. And the first one is the marriage of Hiawatha, and it's an example of her connection with her native heritage and fraternity in her art as well as the old arrow maker, which they have a Native American style of clothing and shoes and their jewelry and stuff. And Hagar is like an empathetic like interpretation of the story of Hagar from the Bible and her struggles with being enslaved and abused and mistreated, and how Black women in America suffer like do the same things. And actually the name Hagar was like actually attributed a lot to Black women during this time period, like due to the similarities of her story and slavery and just the similarities that they had. And Edmonia, she was like really passionate about her heritage, and I think it definitely showed like in her art. And these are my sources.
So, any comments?
The presenter definitely showed that they were interested in not only just one of the artist's sculptures, but like multiple different.
Yes.
And definitely enjoyed covering the topic of like this female artist as a whole, and how would they what's the word? How would they influence the rest of the art history?
Yes, I agree with that totally. And one of the points is that's what I was talking about when I put the word legacy in the prompt. And I want to add to that a little bit. And I thought about this as soon as I saw what artist Randis chose to do a presentation on. And
I'm here, by the way.
oh, you're good. Yes.
Yeah.
Randis, good job.
Thank you.
And let me get you on the list here.
Mm.
And so Randis, you know, one of the things about artists and art history, and you correctly stated that Edmonia was overlooked for a long time.
Yeah.
That is really, really true. And it did reflect a lot of bias and prejudice about a lot of things, and that she had she was African American, she was woman, and that was two reasons, I'm sure, that contributed to the oversight.
Yeah.
try to put this politely, but part of the reason why she is looked at today and written about a lot today, and a lot of, I'm sure what you found was really pretty much written in the last 15 or 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were here on Monday and last Wednesday, I showed you a lot of artists who were taking up issues of social justice and cultural identity. And she hits these square. And you might say that aside from the fact that she was just really good and overlooked, art students coming up today look to her for inspiration.
Yeah.
Because she hits social injustice and gender issues and cultural identity and so on. And you were right on the money when talking about the fact that she was Native American and African American, which it seems as though she celebrated both.
Both of them. Yeah.
So that's that was good. That was really
Thank you.
Any more comments? Questions? We got the author right here on the line, you know. All right. Well, I'm going to hit yours, David.
My name is David
Okay.
Smith, and today we are peering into
I
the
want to
gates
hit
of
this from the beginning.
action. My
And
name is David Smith, and today we are peering.
can you wait? I got to make sure you guys can see this at home.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so this one, and let's see, not that. I get that's random. Oh, this is full screen is what I want. And back to the beginning and play.
My name is David Smith, and today we are peering into the gates of heaven. I chose this piece because when I first saw it, I was fascinated by the amount of detail and craft that went into sculpting each personal yours. I plan to cover some background information of the artist, how long he worked on the sculpture, why it was made, the inspiration behind the work, and the effect that it had on other artists. At the end, I will analyze the elements and techniques that the artists used to make these sculptures. Learning about the sculpture's process for making this artwork made me even more curious about covering it. I'm sure that after I tell you about these, then you will feel the same way. Now let's get started. The creator of this bronze sculpture was Auguste Rodin. He was a French sculptor skilled in capturing human anatomy and movement in his work. One of his most ambitious projects was the Guillotine. The famed sculptor worked away at his gates for about 2 decades. The project was started in the year 1880 and finished in 1917. Rodin did not finish the sculpture by the time he died, so other people cast the rest of the doors and bronze. This bronze sculpture is now held at the Rodin Museum in the city of Paris. The museum is where most of Rodin's sculptures can be seen. The gates of hell can be spotted in the museum's garden. Due to the attention Rodin gained from his earlier sculptures, he received a commission for designing the doors to a museum of decorative arts that was planned to be made in Paris. He was also allowed to choose his own subject matter. So, Rodin wanted to make the design of the doors face Inferno and Charles Baudelaire's Flowers of Eden. He took inspiration from Lorenzo Ghiberti's Gates of Paradise and used the idea of religious imagery covering the doors to tell a loose story. The image on the top left of the slide is the 9 circles of hell depicted by Dante's Inferno, while the image on the bottom left is the Gates of Paradise by Lorenzo Ghiberti. The Gates of Hell had a powerful influence on expressionist artists since it could have highly textured surfaces and use other unique elements while it symbolized larger themes. This is one of many reasons why artists of the 20th century made their art using similar ideas. Rodin wanted the figures on the doors to symbolize sinners being sent to the second circle of hell, lust. The sculptor made the bronze doors with the imagery of Christian purgatory in mind because he thought it was an interesting subject. The paintings on this slide are from expressionist art during the 20th century. The one in the top left is Mourning Street with Women by Wassily Kandinsky. And the one on the top right is Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Looking at the design of these two, we can see all of Rodin's artistic choices at play. The gates have a brownish or rusty green color depending on the perspective you look at. The bronze sculpture maintains a smooth yet solid texture where the light bouncing off of it defines the muscular features of the human figures. Men, women, and children decorate the doors with different expressions and poses. As you can see from the close-up shots in the images on the slide, the figures seem as if they are moving in and out of space. The people near the bottom of the door are more spread out, while near the top of the frame, they are bunched together to almost make up the section. The tall standing gates seem to make an invisible vertical line that draws the attention directly to the 3 figures standing on top. This is David Smith, and thank you for viewing this presentation.
Good job, David. Any questions?
I could tell he like art.
I kind of missed it, but how tall is the door? Oh, I forgot to put that on there.
It's like about 10 feet or something, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah, I have to look back at the text and the sources I used.
Yeah. But it's impressive. There's something here too, I think that you pointed out, and something that I've always thought about this. And you were talking about how as you get up higher on the composition, the figures become more packed, close together, more dense. And to me, and I'm not sure about this, and you might have run across this as an issue, but that always seemed to me a representation of people trying to get out of hell. That's if you were in hell, you would be scratching and clawing to get out.
That would make a lot of sense now looking at like the different gestures and poses of the figurines.
Yes. And you said it was completed after he died. And that was a good point to make too. And that happens not infrequently. And that is that sculptors typically have a lot of different projects going on all at the same time. And so I know that there were, I think this is not the only sculpture that was cast after he died, but what you do is make these out of wax. And then somebody else can take that wax and do a casting. So, yeah, and still pretty much stay true to the artist's intentions. There are some other things that are variables that would, like the color of the bronze, the patina, the other things, but by and large, it would be still his work. More so than having somebody finish a painting per se.
Yeah, when I look back at the sources of just this whole sculpture while I was doing research on it, I never came across a certain source that talked about like the figures trying to climb up and escape from it.
Yeah,
That's a neat concept.
yeah, I think so too. And the other thing I just have to add is that the Rodin, and you mentioned this in your presentation, and that is that he went to Italy to study. And there was still this idea, even though Paris itself in the 19th century was kind of the center of Western art innovation and activity, a lot of people still went to Italy to look at those old masters like Ghiberti. And there were people, I read accounts where Rodin looked at the unfinished Michelangelo marble sculptures and stuff, and did some of his own sculptures where it seems as though the figures are actually kind of coming right out of the rock itself, you know. And so anyway, yeah. Okay, just a second. What are you looking for, baby? P-E-T-S. Okay. See, I'm doing spelling and art history here at the same time. All right, well, thank you, David. And let's see, we got Julia here today, right? And we haven't seen yours. Let's take a look at yours. And Natalie's here too, good. Let me get my pen back for a second. I didn't have her down. Okay, good. All right, so back to where we go. Screen sharing, new share. What do I want? I want this screen. There. And let's see, Julia, I said we'd do yours. Let's take a look at it. And okay, I'm gonna have to turn the volume up. And let me, oh, just a second. Darn, I gotta put this menu up here so I can get to this part here. And I want to stop it. I want to do full screen. I want to go all the way back to the beginning. And let's start. And I want to say something here. Before I start playing Julia's presentation, we have a poster of this painting in our living room. I love Picasso, and my granddaughter said, we got that at home. You bet we do. So Julia Cook.
This art is less doing less, painted by Pablo Picasso. It is a large oil painting created in 1907, and it is a part of the permanent collection of the Museum of Modern Art. The painting portrays 5 nude female prostitutes in a brothel on Calle de Avión, a street in Barcelona, Spain. Les Demoiselles de Avión marks a radical break from traditional composition and perspective in painting. It depicts 5 naked women composed of flat splattered panes, whose faces were inspired by Iberian sculpture and African myths. Picasso unveiled the monumental painting in his Paris studio after months of revision. The first title is a reference to a street in Barcelona famed for its brothels. Picasso, the Spanish-born, Paris-based painter, sculptor, draftsman, printmaker, decorative artist, and writer, influenced the course of the 20th century art with almost unmatched magnitude. His passionate and often procreative life, his unfettered embrace of experimentation, and his drive for invention fed into his prolific production of works, unpending notations of what art was supposed to look like. Picasso's numerous inspirations range from history, politics, and current events to the work of fellow artists to the world outside of his studio. In his dynamic body of work, such opposites as intellect and emotions forms the classicism and expressionism, and the concise and unconcise simultaneism clash and coalesce. In this painting, he did away with pre-existing artistic conventions like naturalism, but even the most forward-thinking viewers weren't quite ready for it. Picasso was a 25-year-old Spanish immigrant to France when he painted Les Demoiselles de Avión, working in a cramped warren of studios on the Parisian hill of Montmartre. The story of its making begins with hundreds of preparatory paintings and drawings, which he generated over an intense 6-month period working out his ideas. They reflected Picasso's responses to Paul Cézanne's structured, almost sculptural depiction of objects and figures, and his pure thematic structuring of space in his still lifes and scenes of bathers. They also reflected his fascination with the African, Iberian, and Oceanic masks and statuary populating France's ethnographic museums, as well as the lusts and anxieties wrapped up in his own complex relationships with women. Out of this intellectual, emotional tumult came a painting in which form and content are equalized. Its title, which translates to The Young Women of Avignon, refers to Avignon Street in Barcelona, home to the prostitutes the artist frequented. The 5 women's pinkish peach-colored bodies, appearing larger than human scale, fill the space of the painting, which is 8 feet high by just over 7 feet wide. The women's shoulders, hips, and limbs are depicted with angular lines and flat geometric planes. Cubic shapes, or in the case of the women standing left of center, half circles form the breasts. Their faces too are sharp-edged and radically simplified, especially those of the 2 women on the right, which he modeled directly after African masks. He was known for his fascination with so-called primitive art, a term typically referring to African masks and statuary, which for Picasso also encompassed ancient carvings from the Iberian Peninsula, the landmass that eventually would be divided into present-day Spain, Andorra, and Portugal. The blocky, pared-down forms and forceful angular tones of primitive art ignited the artist's imagination. Its striking shapes and contours made their way into its own compositions and contributed to his radical resurrecting of the formal characteristics and visual impact of the work of art. Together with fellow artist Georges Barra, Picasso pioneered Cubism, a visual language of geometric planes and compressed space that splintered objects like the human figure, a landscape, or a still life scene into multifaceted pieces, causing them to appear partially abstract, flattened, and pigmented, as if reflected in a shattered mirror. In this painting, Picasso used a lot of horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines to create geometric shapes to form the women. He mostly used diagonal lines to create a sense of movement throughout the painting. Picasso used geometric shapes such as squares, rectangles, circles, cubes, and triangles in this piece. This being one of his paintings using his famous art style, Cubism. There is use of positive and negative space by making the women stand out from the negative space of the background. This is created by using shading to hopefully make the women appear three-dimensional. Color is a big factor in this painting because it's what really makes the women stand out from the background. The women are bright, warm tone colors that really stand out as the background consists of cool, muted tones to take away attention from it. The painting has quite a jagged texture because of the pointed lines of the geometric shapes used. But because of this, it adds a level of difference which draws in the audience. Les Demoulins d'Avignon by Pablo Picasso is considered one of those crucial artistic moments unquestionably providing the past from the future. Modernism was sweeping across Europe in the period that Picasso painted his masterpiece, and with it, he reinvented the wheel of Western painting. The artwork depicts 5 naked women created from flat, jagged plants, their faces inspired by Iberian sculpture and African masks. Les Demoulins d'Avignon, Picasso's landmark work, was a precursor to the style that became known as Cubism and is often considered the first Cubist painting.
All right. Very good, Julia. Questions? No questions? I have a comment, and it was towards the end of this presentation, Julia, that I thought you said something that was actually quite profound, and I want to emphasize this. And you talked about the Picasso stands right there in the middle between the past and the future. And he reinvented the wheel of Western art, or I'm paraphrasing, but that is absolutely true. And I've said this a number of times in this course, and I really hope you guys remember this. And that is, we looked at art from 1400 to the present, and the first 450 years, without a doubt, you can bet that the emphasis was on illusionism, realism, naturalism above anything else. That was always the game. Now, people approached it differently. Some were better at it. Some were better at doing shiny objects, and some were better at kinetic energy. That is, it looks like it's about ready to move, excuse me, and so on. But that whole illusionism was the guiding principle for 450 years. And then when we get in the last half of the 19th century, we start to see people breaking off little bit at a time for really about 50 years there. And that's where we get impressionism, because it's not that natural. You don't look at it and say, oh, wow, this looks like a photograph. And in fact, it's very deliberate. It does not look like a photograph. And some of the artists that Julia talked about, like Cezanne and a few others, they were breaking away from that idea. And that's why I like Picasso, because I believe he stands right in the center of that that's really where it broke away from illusionism completely. He still had subject matter, recognizable subject matter. In this case, we know that these are the young women who worked in the brothel in Avignon, but bottom line, it's not realism. And in fact, it was talking about flatness and stuff. Picasso himself said that all of that illusion, he referred to that as a lie. Illusionism is a lie. That's a quote from Picasso. And so hence, since Picasso, we have all kinds of abstraction. It just opened the doors. And the other thing that happened with Picasso, Julia didn't talk about this, but he was kind of like the Elvis or the Beatles or the Michael Jackson, the biggest star on the planet in his heyday, back in the early part of the 20th century. And he stayed the preeminent rock star artist until he died. And that was like in 1972. He lived to be very old, but still you would see him in the news. I spent the first part of my life, would read about Picasso in the paper. Living artist. So anyway, good job, Julia. And we have here, Natalie's here. Let's play Natalie's piece on Buddha. And so, gotta make sure I got my share. This is what this is the one we want. And we want to make it full screen. And we want to play.
So American Art is architectural miracle. It was created in the 15th century by during the 6th Dynasties period. It's located in Shanghai, China. It was made of sandstone clay, and the purpose was to respect the members of the dynasty. The location is about 10 miles east of the city Dayton, near the northern border of the Shanxi province and the region. And they are excellent examples of rock cut architecture and one of the three most famous Buddhist sculptural sites in China. The unique purpose was to commemorate the earlier members of the dynasty and to atone for the fact that his last years of the previous white empire Taiwan was had persecuted Buddhism, and it's to commemorate the 5 founding emperors of the normal white dynasty. A little bit. So this is kind of what I was just talking about before, but also the Buddhist culture and art display involves many aspects of the history, architecture, and music. It had an important impact on Buddhist cave art and China and East Asia. It also reveals the power and endurance of the Buddhist belief in China. They declare the empire's political and spiritual legitimacy and strengthen the rule of the imperial family. The power and belief system. So basically, it allows you to probe into the Chinese Buddhist culture. And I got this from my sources. The main belief was that with the 252 priests and 51,000 statues, the young photos represented the outstanding achievement of the Buddhist kingdom in
China in the 5th and 6th centuries. The creators of these cave sculptures were a lot of carving away the rock, meaning that they were taking away the rock to create these Buddhas. And for formal analysis, we already talked about how the creators were carving away the rock, and this just means that there's just a lot of negatives and positive space in the cave. The negative space being the ceramic part of the Buddha, the positive space being the part of the Buddha. There's no need for colors in these pieces because they're just as impactful as they were back in the day, and they don't need any color to show their significance, their size, and form of it around the cave just gives the importance of it. And for the legacy of these caves, so the 5 caves created by Taniel with their strict unity of layout and design constitute a classical masterpiece of all the first piece of Chinese Buddhist art. The Yanging Grottos have played a vital, important role among the early Oriental Buddhists and had a far-reaching impact on the Buddhist cave art in China and East Asia. The Buddhist tradition of religious cave art achieved at its first major impact at the Yanging, and it has developed its own distinct character and artistic pattern. All right, these are my sponsors. Thank you for listening.
All right. So, questions, comments? I got one, and I have this question. Natalie, or any of you guys that watch this presentation, did you see the ears on the Buddha?
Like they usually have like stretched ears, you mean?
Yeah, they're like really big.
Yeah.
They're huge, and they almost like go down to to the shoulders almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know why that is?
I actually don't, even though I'm stretching my ears too, is a funny thing, but I actually don't know.
I get it. No, it's symbolism, and that is that in Buddhism, it's more important to listen than it is to speak. And so you have these big ears, and the mouth is like typically closed. And there's all kind of iconography that goes along with depictions of the Buddha too, but that was one of them, and I know was real prominent on this. The depictions vary a little bit from place to place. Buddhism was and is, it's big in China, and especially, in 14th, 15th centuries when these statues were made, Buddhism was predominant. And there's a kind of Buddhism that exists in Japan called Shinto Buddhism, and so on, Buddhism from South Asia, and so on. And it is a religion that originated in India. So anyway, good job. Let's see. New share, let's share this. And Mackenzie, are you here? Let's see, I forgot who's all participating here. Christina is here. And we'll do this.
Hello, my name is Christina Brown,
Oh,
and today I'm
Hey,
going to be
whoa,
talking about the
whoa,
Eiffel
lost
Tower.
this, lost the screen.
The Eiffel Tower is located in Paris, France.
Oh,
It
man.
was built in
What did I
January
do?
1887. The build took 2 years.
It's not on the screen.
I know, I
It was
clicked the
finished
wrong
March
thing.
31st, 1889.
And let me start that over because I jumped to the wrong screen. And I think we're in business here. So Christina Brown, the Eiffel Tower.
Hello, my name is Christina Brown, and today I'm going to be talking about the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is located in Paris, France. It was built in January 28th, 1887. The build took 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days. It was finished March 31st, 1889. The Eiffel Tower was built from 1887 to 1889 by French engineer Gustave Eiffel, whose company specialized in building metal frameworks and structures. Gustave Eiffel is at the origin of many metallic works in Europe, such as the Budapest train station in Hungary. Gustave Eiffel's company also built the metal framework for another world-famous monument, Statue of Liberty, which is located in New York in the United States, which was designed by Auguste Bartholdi. He offered to the United States as a gift from France to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the American Declaration of Independence in 1886. The Eiffel Tower is made almost entirely of open lattice wrought iron. Gustave Eiffel uses advanced knowledge of the behavior of metal art and metal truss forms on the loading to design a light and airy but strong structure that had a presage of revolution in civil engineering and architectural design. The Eiffel Tower is made of iron, not steel. The puddle iron that makes up the Eiffel Tower structure comes from the Pompeii Forges, which is located in east France. The iron plates and beams produced through the puddling process were then pre-assembled in the Eiffel factories using rivets. Finally, these pieces were taken to the Eiffel Tower's construction site to be mounted. The iron used to build the Eiffel Tower went through a refining process called puddling, which eliminated the excess carbon when the ore was melted. Following this process, you obtain almost pure iron, which was, according to Gustave Eiffel at the time, the best and most robust of materials. To protect it from corrosion, the iron is covered with a thick coat of paint that has to be renewed every 7 years. This repeating schedule was recommended by Gustave Eiffel himself and is still respected to this date. The tower has 3 floors that are open to the public. The first floor, second floor, and the summit. The second floor has 2 levels, as does the summit, an enclosed lower level and an open air level above. Visitors can reach the first 2 floors either by the stairs or by elevator. The ascension from the second floor to the summit is only possible by elevator. So what was the purpose of building Eiffel Tower? Well, when the French government was organizing the International Exposition of 1889 to celebrate the centenary of the French Revolution, a competition was held for designs for a suitable monument. More than 100 plans were submitted, and the Centennial Committee chose that of the noted British engineer Gustave Eiffel. When the Eiffel Tower was completed, it served as the gateway to the exposition. It has since come to represent the distinct character of the city of Paris. Its lights are also often turned on or off to reflect commemoration of major world events. Even though the tower doesn't really have a power police system, Its height and unique silhouette floating above the Paris landscape quickly made the Eiffel Tower one of the most popular attractions in Paris. The tower's destiny is closely linked to that of the city of Paris, the capital of France, and the Eiffel Tower's form. For 150 years, the Eiffel Tower has been a powerful and distinctive symbol of the city of Paris. It was built for the 1889 World's Fair. It impressed the entire world by its stature and daring design, and symbolized French know-how and industrial genius. Though it is very well known today, when it was first built, there was a lot of controversy over the tower. It raged in our world before and during its construction, but thanks to the audacity of its architecture and design, visitors and Parisans immediately fell under its charm, and more than 2 million people toured it in its first year. Its height is 330 meters. It can be seen from all over Paris and beyond, day and night until 1 a.m. thanks to the lighting. The twinkling illumination at fixed times and its beacon that reaches out to 80 kilometers at 360 degrees. The Eiffel Tower can be seen sparkling every night for 5 minutes at each hour, at the precise start of the hour. The current lighting system has been in place since 1985, though the tower has been lit up in various fashions since its 1889 debut for the International Exposition when gas lights were used. And that is everything about the Eiffel Tower. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learn more about the Eiffel Tower's history.
Okay, Christina. Here we go. Any questions? Well, comments, any? Like always, I have a few things to say, and one of them is that there were two things I thought were really important. First of all, Christina talked about the fact that this was made out of iron, and the process of puddling, which is spot on. And this is kind of an interesting point, because what we have in America is that we're going a whole different other way with iron. We're making steel, and it was Andrew Carnegie primarily, among others, that they took all of the iron ore from the upper Great Lakes states and they shipped it to places like Pittsburgh, which is why you have the Pittsburgh Steelers today, because that was really the primary industry of Pittsburgh for decades and decades. But at any rate, the Eiffel Tower was the real engineering genius of the day. We started to see in America people using steel in different ways. And I talked to you about the Wainwright building, Louis Sullivan, who did the Wainwright building in St. Louis. And that's an early example of a skyscraper using steel. But, you know, what Eiffel did was to say, hey, you know, steel is okay, but we can do this a whole other way. And they did, and it was the tallest man-made structure in the world for quite a long time. And what that represented to a lot of people, when I talk about it's become a symbol of Paris, what it represented in a lot of ways was the French superiority, the fact that they were on the leading edge of almost everything at the time. This is a time where medicine was going leaps and bounds in France. That's where we got people like Louis Pasteur figuring out microbes and illnesses and things like that. We got the art that we've seen in here. We've had the writers, philosophers, engineers, scientists. And so there was a lot of pride, and this all kind of came into the Eiffel Tower because it became a symbol of all of that. France leading the world, 1889, 100 years of liberty, etc. So spot on, good information. I learned a lot. I hope you guys did too. And so I think that's all of the ones of people that I have here. Let's see, we got, except Wes, I'm sorry, wasn't able to convert that and put it in a way. It's in my mailbox right now, but sorry, but I'm glad you've got it in. And I think
If
what
you-
this, yes,
If you want, I can screen share and show it that way if you want.
right now,
Yeah, I have it pulled up on my computer.
how would I get your, yeah, I would like that actually. I'm not sure how I can get to you. Let's see, more. No. Wes, I sure do want to see it because I haven't even looked at it yet. Yeah, I'm not sure that this meeting's set up in that way, but one last. See, ask to start video. Is that going to do it?
No, that just shows up my webcam thing.
Well, Wes, I'm glad you got it in. I'm really sorry we're not all going to look at it right now. But it's time to go, I think. And as I said earlier, you guys see, and I think Wes, kind of further this point, I think that the Zoom for this is kind of just really set up as a one-way thing. I can get your audio, but it's obviously I can get that, but your video, I'm not sure it's set up to do that. Not, it's like they set it up for a class, not particularly a meeting. But so anyway, please don't forget course evaluations. And if you have any of those quizzes, of course, you guys all have, everybody here listening now, they have their PowerPoints, but there's still a few out there that I haven't gotten yet. If you see this, please get it in. I want you guys all to pass. So I can say this, have a good summer. Be safe. Hopefully we'll see each other again in the fall. Thank you.
Have a good summer.
All right, you too.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, you bet, Wes, Randis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See you later, Katie. And so, I'm sorry, I couldn't pay attention to you because I'm trying to do something here. And, yeah.